Welcome, my loyal 72 subscribers, to a new edition of the Krakens Lair comics. Here we are, deep in the Krakens Lair. What we're going to discuss today is new books that I'm sending off to be graded. Stay tuned. Hello, my 72 wonderful subscribers. Once again, Dan the Kraken Man is having some technological difficulties. For those of you that watch my channel, this is not a big surprise, but I do the best I can, and I want it to be as viewable and enjoyable as I can possibly make it with my limited abilities. First of all, to my 72 amazing subscribers, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. There's all kinds of comic book channels on the interwebs. There's people with just amazing comic books. Alex the Comic Hoarder, Mint Hunter Comics, Chef. This is like Chaz. There's great comic book channels out there, and they all have their own style, great content, great books to show you guys, great tips and advice. My poor hat thrown in the ring. Oh yes, it's receding. What I'm talking about today is a next batch of comics to get sent off to PGX to get graded. It seems like my videos on sending in books to get graded, people seem to like. I get a lot of extra views on that. I'll preface this again by saying there is no wrong way to collect comics. If you never want to get a book graded, don't do it. If there's a certain company that you feel is going to give you the product that you're looking for, whether it's cost, turnaround time, the resale value of that, or whatever, they've got fancy labels. It really doesn't matter. If it's something that you want to do, don't let other people derail you from your plan to do what you want to do with your comic collection. So it doesn't matter if I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't get that book graded, or I wouldn't use that company, or whatever. I mean, if it's something that you want to do, I would say do your research. So at the end of the day, you remain happy about the decision that you did make. So you didn't expect an unrealistic outcome. For example, CGC does not do authorized signatures unless they witness them. So even if you were there and you saw Stan Lee sign it, you've got pictures of Stan Lee signing your book, and you send it off to CGC, they're not going to say it's an authorized signature. So you might want to consider using another company. If you've got a book and there's the new movie coming out, and you want to take advantage of that hype, perhaps the lead time to get your book back from CGC, if you're like, man, I bought this book for, doesn't matter, $100 back in the day, and speculation on this book and the movie is coming out and it's rising, and I want to take advantage of that, perhaps waiting half a year to get your book back from CGC might not make sense. Once again, you have to analyze, like, what is your goal here? And I've stated it before, and I'll state it again if this is the first time you've seen one of my videos. I grade books for very specific reasons. Reason number one, my wife and my daughter don't know nearly as much about comic books as I do. So just by having the book graded, if Dan the Kraken Man gets hit by the bus tomorrow, the fact that it's a graded book is going to clue them in that this is of value. the fact that there is a grade on there, and I have informed them of the resources that they can utilize to let them know what a fair market price on that book is. So somebody's not going to come in and go like, yeah, man, that 7.5 Hulk 181, how's $200 sound to you, girlies? Because there are some villains out there that will take advantage of people, and they will snap up opportunities to put money in their pocket. Um, and I would hate to see that happen. Well, in this scenario, I'm dead, but I don't want that to be a possibility. So I'm trying to eliminate that possibility. That's one of the reasons I have books graded. The second one is knowledge. Um, I'm not a professional grader. I don't pretend to be. Um, I couldn't, if you laid out a 9.0, a 9.2, a 9.4, a 9.6, I would not be able to tell you the reasons for that little point two. Like, I'm not qualified. Um, Also, as I've discovered, there's books that I bought like a long time ago, like 30 years ago, and they've sat in my collection, and I'm not going through every page. And so I discovered one. It was Amazing Spider-Man number 20 that was missing the pinup. I didn't even know it was gone. So the knowledge that I got from having that book graded, um, avoided a lot of potential nastiness if like I sold the book and then all of a sudden the seller's like, dude, the pinup's not here. Like, and would justifiably be upset because I didn't disclose that because I didn't know what was missing. Um, Not pulling the comics out of the bag and board. There could be some water stains on the back. Actually, one of these books I was looking at, thinking about submitting, there's multiple pages throughout the comic book where above the artwork, some kid, HH, put his initials in some sort of like Sharpie pen that has bled through multiple pages. So it was like, okay, he put it on page 6, HH, and Sharpie. Well, it bled forward from page 6 to page 3, and from page 6 to page 9. And then somewhere around page 12, he felt inclined again, like, this is my book, HH, in Sharpie, that now bled through the next couple of pages. So if I just like sent this in blindly without looking at that, I'd be like, what? The 2.0? Shocker. Um, but I don't usually pull my books out of the bag and board before I send them in to be graded. Lesson learned. Um, the knowledge that you get from having a third party grading source, if you go to sell it, it's not my opinion. It's not me telling you, I think it is this grade or that grade. Is an independent company. So that might teach me something. And not just, the bad news of like, oh, the pinup's missing. And I thought it was where I sent in like a Tales of Suspense number 41. I thought it was like a 4.5, came back a 6.5. Now, because of that 6.5, I can sell that for a lot more. And the purchaser will know with confidence, this is what I'm getting. I didn't lose out just thinking, oh, in my opinion, it's a 4.5 and just give away a few $100, not being aware that it was actually a 6.5. My last reason for getting books graded, it's purely about preservation. That some of these books are really old. They are made of paper. And yeah, even if like bag and board and you're storing them properly, there does remain the possibility of additional damage. Um, for multiple reasons, and having it entombed, slabbed in that hard shell plastic case is really like the best protection that book can have, um, from people handling it. You know, you got friends over and like, oh wow, you've got whatever Fantastic Four #1. I want to look at it, and oh, oops, you know, wrinkle, crinkle, some little Marvel chipping thing off the edge breaks off, and it's like now lower, 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 lower condition. Um, so for me personally, I think sometimes like getting a book graded in that hard shell encapsulation, I sort of look at it as like passing the baton for like future comic book collectors, where they're not going to know Dan the Kraken, man. I mean, this book might end up in multiple hands, throughout the years, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like even longer down the road, like 30 years from now, 40 years from now. But the fact that I got it protected now, it's going to put that 4.0, 7.0 in some collector's hand 30, 40 years from now, where, once again, even though I take good care of my books, something happens, Uh, so I think that's important because I love comics. I love the history of comics, and so some of this stuff to me is just like now I like almost feel like an obligation. I have a duty to, like, I need to preserve these books. Um, there's less and less every single year that remains in good condition because, dad, the collector, passes away. It ends up in the hands of some relatives that maybe don't know what they're doing, or maybe they don't even want to deal with like the mountain of comic books and liquidating them. So there's like, called Tony the Trash Man to come and pick up all this stuff. And now here's some guy's collection that he spent a lifetime achieving that's in a landfill. And to me, like, that's a sin. I mean, I don't use that word lightly, but it's the strongest word I can think of. I mean, that, like, such a waste for that to be the ultimate destiny of some great comic books just because nobody cared or nobody wanted to deal with it or nobody knew what they had. So for me, that's some of the reasons that I get books graded. And I know, I'm 12 minutes in. I probably lost most of you. But I'm going to show some comic books right now. These are books that I'm getting ready to send off to PGX to have graded. And feel free to chime in the comments. Uh, if oh, you should get this book graded and not that book graded, or why would you send that in? I could take constructive criticism. Doesn't hurt my feelings from you people out there in comic book land. Um, and I want you to feel involved. So, like, if you have something to say it. I can take it. So I'm gonna press pause for a second, just so I can get my comic book set up, and then we'll look at some books together.